On the 7th of April, Holly Dance got back to her home in the UK. She found her 12-year-old son, Archie, lying unconscious. He had suffered some traumatic brain injuries. She believed he was taking part in some online challenge. Since then, Archie Battersbee has been on life support. Soon, Battersbee was transferred to the Royal London Hospital. This is where the doctors told his family that he had suffered a catastrophic brain injury. They said he has no chance of recovery. The doctors wanted to take him off life support, but his family disagreed. This is what took Archie Battersbee's case to the court. A case that has now raised some very fundamental questions. Who decides whether to end life support when the patient cannot make the decision? Is it the family? Is it the doctors? Or is it the court? And finally, what distinguishes life from death? For a vast majority of cases like this, the doctors and parents come together. They decide what is best for the children. Sometimes, all medicine can do is prolong the inevitable. So withdrawing life support can sometimes be the best option. Sometimes the family consults someone independent. It could be a clinical ethics committee, specialists from other hospitals, or independent experts. But what if the parents and the doctors cannot agree even after that? That is when the court is asked for help. For Archie's case, the High Court ruled he was dead based on MRI results on the 13th of June. But the family appealed once again. The Supreme Court too ruled out intervening in the case. And that is when the Battersbee family approached the United Nations. On the 3rd of August, the European Court of Human Rights refused the application, so the postponing of life support withdrawal was not allowed. In most cases, the court is seen as a neutral arbitrator. It focuses exclusively on what is the best for the child. Archie's case was heard in several top courts. All of them ruled that was in his best interest for the treatment to be withdrawn. And this brings us to another uncomfortable question. By continuing life support, are they prolonging life or are they prolonging death? Life and death, they are very clear, opposing concepts. But in medicine, the concepts are not that well defined. In the UK, death is defined as anyone who is brain dead. Archie too was unable to recover from lack of oxygen to his brain, but even then, his diagnosis was not clear. So the complexity here was the definition of death and the criteria that has to be met for a diagnosis of brain death. For Archie's mother, she believes she is prolonging life by keeping him on life support. It is her hope that sees logic in waiting and watching. But for doctors, keeping Archie on life support is prolonging death. His body is shutting down and he will inevitably die sooner or later. Currently, the family has asked for Archie to be moved to a hospice. They say that they want to say goodbye to him in a peaceful place. Doctors have warned against this move. They say there is significant risk in moving him right now. The family, though, says it will fight to the end for Archie's right to live. And with me on the broadcast from Cardiff is Baroness Elura Finlay. She is a professor of palliative medicine at the Cardiff University and an independent member of the House of Lords. Thanks very much for being here with us. Doctors saying it's highly likely that Archie Battersbee is brainstem dead and continuing treatment is futile. Could you tell us more about this condition itself and what is the usual medical practice in such cases?
The reality is that there is nothing in medicine that is 100%. And so when the doctors are saying that it is extremely likely. They are being honest with the family. This is their interpretation from all of the tests that they have done and all of the different ways they've tried to ascertain if there is brain activity. Now, your brain stem is very important. The whole of your brain is important, but you can't live at all without a function in the brain stem. But the other thing that I think people don't understand is that after a terrible head injury, the damage in the brain carries on and gets worse. So it isn't as if it's static. You get inflammation around the areas that are damaged, the cells die off and so on. So things may well deteriorate in the days after the initial brain injury.
Right. Who decides when life support ends? Is it the family, the guardians, or can the court intervene against the family's will as well?
Right. You have to remember that the child would have already died without life support. The point of life support for any patient, of ventilating them, of treating them, is because you are doing that aiming for a degree of improvement. When it becomes clear that there is going to be no improvement whatsoever and things will deteriorate anyway, then it becomes futile to carry on with an intervention because it's not going to achieve its goal, which is to have some improvement, however small that improvement may be.
Right. The 12-year-old was found unconscious after taking part in this online challenge. Would you say that such activities, these online gaming activities, should be regulated? And in what ways can parents be mindful of them?
And I have actually put down a private member's bill in Parliament to ask Ofcom, who are the regulator for communication, to look at these internet sites and the way that children can get caught up in very harmful challenges, self-harming, eating disorders, cutting themselves, where they get goaded towards suicidal attempts and so on, because they are terribly dangerous. And at the moment, there is no control over them. They are run by extremely evil people who have a nasty voyeuristic tendency, and with absolutely no respect at all for the life of the child that is vulnerable. And at the moment, we don't have adequate controls over these, and we need to find a way to block them. We need to find a way of actually prosecuting those people who goad youngsters into suicide or into self-harm.
Right, thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and sharing those inputs and perspectives. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.